right, this is James Tallerico. He's a Texas state representative. Check this dude out.
What is the fourth commandment?
But this is some people who are trying to get 10 Commandments, like, pictures posted in every classroom. That's what he's doing right now.
Remember the Sabbath.
Keep the Sabbath.
Part of keeping the Sabbath holy is not working on the Sabbath.
That is, yeah,
What day is the Jewish Sabbath?
it is on Saturday.
And what day is it today?
It is Saturday.
That's funny, right? 10 Commandments don't apply to Christians, like, at all. I don't know why everybody seems to think that, like, the 10 Commandments apply to Christians. They have not applied to Christians ever, because Jesus fulfilled the old law. He fulfilled the old law. We do not follow the old law anymore.
Jehovah's Witnesses do.
No, they don't. You mean with the blood transfusion thing?
When I talked to Grandma, she was insistent that they had to follow both the Old Testament and the New Testament.
Yeah, they follow the Old Testament and the New Testament, but they don't follow the old law. The old law is outlined in, I believe, Leviticus, and it's got the 10 Commandments followed by 603 more commandments. And the first 10 aren't really separated out from the others. Like, they're all equally as important as each other. So 613 commandments, and it's things like don't wear cotton and linen blends. Don't put two seeds in the same hole when you're farming. Don't I don't know, just a billion other little things. Like, it's stuff that doesn't apply to us at all. Keep the Sabbath day, it must remain holy. You know, all that other stuff.
Someone said, is James trolling them? Yes, he is.
Yeah, he is trolling them. So anyway, we don't follow the old law. Nobody follows the old law today. But for some reason, Christians want to put the old law in classrooms.
By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
Here we are.
The Christian Sabbath is what day?
Sunday, in honor of the day that Jesus rose from the dead.
And we're scheduled to give this bill a final vote on what day of the week?
It's ironic, isn't it?
No, it's not ironic. You don't follow the Sabbath. You just don't. And you're trying to put these things in classrooms for no reason. Why 10 commandments? Why not something else? Why not the golden rule? Treat others as you treat others as you want to be treated. Why not that one? Because
Love thy neighbor.
because it's all nonsense. It's always been nonsense all the way down. These people, their whole goal is just to make the country more Christian and impose their religion on others.
Would you be willing to postpone your bill so that we're not breaking the 10 Commandments by working on the Jewish or Christian Sabbath?
I love that you said that, because
You're saying that you'd rather tell people to follow the 10 Commandments than follow it yourself?
I would have rather have had this bill passed the other day when it was time.
We as a legislature are about to...
It's such a simple thing. You could postpone the bill. Why aren't you doing that? The answer is because you don't care. You never cared about the Sabbath or the 10 Commandments or any of it. This is you trying to force your religious beliefs down everyone's throats.
Force every teacher in the state to post the 10 Commandments in their classrooms.
If
Do
they are
members
donated.
of the Texas legislature follow the 10 Commandments?
So again, this bill is about honoring our historical, educational, and judicial heritage.
That's complete nonsense. Our heritage is secular. We are a secular country. We were always a secular country. John Adams tried to write in to the Constitution religious stuff, and seriously, they kept throwing it out. They kept writing new drafts and telling him to stop because they didn't want religious stuff in the Constitution. That is 100% real. And you're telling me now that you think that we are a religious country. They are trying to impose their religious beliefs on others, and they're using the force of law to do it. And lying, straight up lying about the origin of the country in an effort to do so.
Historical, educational, and judicial heritage. with the displaying of the Ten Commandments.
The ninth commandment is thou shalt not bear false witness. Are you aware of any legislators who have lied about anything?
Lying in the classroom.
That is, there might be one coming up in a minute if you keep talking. We'll see.
You telling him that you think that he's a liar, but you can't prove it because he hasn't said a lie yet? Is that what you're saying? Are you serious with this? He's drawing out the point that these people never cared about Christianity or the law or whatever other thing. They cared about imposing their religion on others, plain and simple.
The seventh commandment is thou shalt not commit adultery.
Yes.
Do you think that members of the legislature should focus more on trying to follow the Ten Commandments rather than telling others to follow them?
Maybe they didn't have them posted.
I am.
You hear that person in the background? Maybe if they'd had them posted, then they would know. As if people don't know what the Ten Commandments are, and if only they'd had them posted in schools, then they would know. Give it a rest.
It is incumbent on all of us to follow God's law.
So the point is that James Tallerico is trolling these people gloriously, and I'm here for every second of it.
She doesn't know how to respond.
Nope, because she doesn't care about any of this stuff, really. She just wants to impose her religious beliefs on everybody around her. Anyway, check this one out.
Is there a separation of church and state in this country?
That's an interesting question.
No, it's not. It's a straightforward question. The answer is yes, there is, and there has been since day one. Since day one.
That has been debated a great
It hasn't been debated. It's outlined in the Constitution.
Right.
deal, but
It's the first sentence of the First Amendment of the Constitution. The First Amendment contradicts the First Commandment. So you're going to have, like, posters that contradict the First Amendment on them. You're going to have posters that say, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And a First Amendment that says, you can say or do whatever you want. Nobody is, like, tied to any specific religion or whatever else. Why don't you put the Bill of Rights up there instead of the Ten Commandments? Why aren't they fighting for the Bill of Rights instead? Because they want a Christian nationalist state is why. They don't want a secular democracy. They want a Christian nationalist state.
I'm going to say to you is I'm going to quote some of our earliest forefathers.
Oh, here we go. She's going to lie. I know the quotes she's going to give, and they're lies.
Do you think that our
I
forefathers
want to give you a chance to talk, but I also just want to make sure that I'm getting an answer to my question. Is there a separation of church and state? in this country?
did those that first Congress, that earliest Congress, when they
Continental Congress, you mean? The one before the U.S. Congress?
authorized the production of a complete King James Bible, was that a separation of church and state?
The first Congress. I assume she's talking about the Continental Congress. 1776, we started the Revolutionary War, but we didn't actually get a constitution until like 1887, I think. Or I think it was ratified maybe in 1889. Before that, we had like a Continental Congress that did all kinds of different things. But when the Constitution was ratified, they immediately pushed through the Bill of Rights as well to show that how the system works and everything else. To add the 10 amendments. And then over the following 20 years, Thomas Jefferson worked stringently to try to get a separation of church and state officially, so that it was so the First Amendment was interpreted the way that it was intended to be interpreted. So Thomas Jefferson was one of the earliest presidents, I think number 2 or something. And within his term, after George Washington, he started working on making sure that that there was a separation of church and state fully recognized, and it was undeniable, and he succeeded. So I don't know what the earliest scumbags did before 1888 or whatever, but George Washington was secular. He'd been to church a total of twice in his entire life. Thomas Jefferson was secular, even accused of being an atheist. That was like a line of attack against him in the whatevers. We didn't get a president who was religious to any degree until John Adams. And by that point, secularism had already been established for a long time. We're a secular nation. We've been a secular nation this entire time. And pretending otherwise is you lying. You know, that thing that you just said that politicians don't really do that often, except for James Tallerico, apparently.
But even then, her response to his question was, is them authorizing the production of the King James Bible a separation of church and state? Yes. They authorized the production of literature. What other books do they authorize the production of? Because I'm sure there are more.
That's true.
They're picking out specific instances that would make no sense without this given very specific scenario and just running with it. Just because they feel like lying.
That's true. What she's referring to specifically is, if I remember correctly, they actually had a Bible printed with like a congressional seal on it or something. And it was not that many of them. I don't remember now. But anyway, I don't know what that has to do with like anything at all or why I would care. Is that really your best example of like a separation of church and state like not existing? Because it's right in the Constitution, the Establishment Clause, the first sentence of the First Amendment.
I'm just asking you simple questions.
I think that I think I've answered it.
Do you know who coined the term separation of church and
do.
state? Who is that?
I believe it was Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson.
Yes.
Yeah. Thomas Jefferson in that letter was referring to the First Amendment of the Constitution, the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause, which clearly create a separation of church and state.
I have some scholars here that can better answer your specific questions, and I am not that person.
Okay. We established that our founding fathers wanted a separation of church and state. But
I did not establish that. I absolutely.
So there are a bunch of scholars, quote unquote, supposed scholars, most of whom don't have a degree in this at all, or any degree to speak of whatsoever. Do you know Kent Hovind?
Yeah, vaguely.
Kent Hovind is really, or was at least, really good friends with David Barton. David Barton is a young earth creationist nutcase and famously produced this whole series on how the country was originally like a Christian country incorrectly. He just lies. He just makes things up completely. In some cases, he cherry picks quotes from random people who nobody has ever heard of, and who was like the assistant to like some congressman in some state or something like that who said this stuff. And in other cases, he just completely makes things up. But his one quote that holds any water at all is John Adams. In it, basically, John Adams, being the religious nutcase that he was, said something to the effect of, the Constitution is applicable only to a moral people. And, you know, if it isn't overseeing moral people, then it's useless, is his point. That's the only thing that he has going for him. Again, David Barton does not have a degree in this. I think he has a degree in like writing or something from some Christian university. That's it. And he claims to be a constitutional scholar incorrectly.
Seems as though I'm just as qualified as him and still know more.
Yeah, and you know what? David Barton has even made things up whole cloth, like claimed that there was a black robe regiment. This is like one of his attempts to claim that like there was no separation of church and state. He claims that during the Revolutionary War, there was a group called the Black Robe Regiment who were preachers who would take their black robes off after services, and under them would be greaves, like military greaves, and he would take his parishioners out back of the church for target training and stuff to train them to fight in the Revolutionary War. It's completely made up. That never happened. Literally none of that happened. David Barton made the term up. The Black Robe Regiment didn't exist as a term until he put it in his book in the 90s. There was a Black Regiment, which was a group of black dudes from Massachusetts, I think, that fought in World War II. But all this stuff that David Barton talks about is completely fictitious. Those are probably the scholars sitting behind her because she's repeating all of his lies that he tells.
Sorry,
did not establish
historical
that.
fact established
I
that.
disagree
But
with that.
do you think the Constitution is foundational to our country?
I do.
Why doesn't your bill mandate that the Constitution be posted
Right, the the 10 Amendments, like the Bill of Rights. Why not put those up in classrooms instead of the 10 Commandments?
Well, if you want to carry that bill, you can. I'm carrying the bill that I chose to carry.
Yeah, and I'm not interested in micromanaging what posters are put up in classrooms, which is why I would never carry a bill like
Sick burn. I love that.
this. But I'm asking why, since you are in the business of deciding what posters are up in a classroom, which ones aren't, why is the Constitution not taking that prime spot?
Dude, this guy is like on point.
Because it's the most foundational document.
Because it's not the most foundational document in her mind, of course. The Bible is in her mind.
This dude is he's really cool. He's I think he's a pastor.
Is he?
Right?
Yeah, I think
he
he
gives
is.
sermons.
Yeah.
I've seen some of them. He's really cool. He doesn't let his religious beliefs affect whatever politics he's in, which is what it should be. That's how it should work. He's doing it perfectly. He understands that not everyone agrees with him, and so we shouldn't be forcing it down people's throats and putting it in schools.
Right. Exactly. That's how I want it. I want people to be able to practice their religion as they see fit. But I don't want it imposed on me or my kids or my whatevers. Anybody. Nobody.
Whatevers.
Yeah. Or my cats. Or
Yeah.
anything. Just dead silence.
I'm so tired. I'm just.
That's okay. I know. Let me move on. Let me move on. I'll move on.
Trying to.
Yes. I know.
She doesn't have a good answer to this because there is no good answer. Because she's a liar and a schemer and a scumbag. And if I remember correctly, Jesus didn't like people like that. Just putting it out there. Just popping that in your ear.
Someone said cats are the one true gods. I would agree with you, and I think there's a long ancient group that would also agree.
Well, the cats would certainly agree.
The cats would certainly agree. Egyptians worshipped cats too.
They did.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Just tell me what you think about it in the comments. These people are just embarrassing and sad.
She didn't have an answer, and so she claimed brain fog and how tired she is. I do that same thing when I realized I was saying something stupid.
Right? Well, I guess she connected the dots on her stupidity, huh? Yeah.